Welcome everybody. Thank you all for coming today. We're really glad you're here, and we're also very excited to welcome our very own Roberto Haza, President of VRARA Seattle, to share today how spatial computing is reshaping our world and how we can cut through the fuss to focus on the challenges and issues that really matter to customers and users, especially those outside of the gaming industry. My name is Julia Beabout. I'm the CEO and Creative Director of Novaby AR. I also serve as the program's chair, which is why I am doing the intro today since Roberto is speaking. Yeah, and I do not do this alone. Obviously, in partnership with Roberto, we also have a great advisor, Dan Collin. And today we are excited to welcome our new communications chair, Ariane Culp, who is CEO of VR Voyaging. Ariane, do you want to say a quick hello and intro?
As Julia said, I'll be working on communications that involves editing some of the video content and probably working on some of the write-ups, newsletters, things for the website, that sort of thing. For those who aren't aware of VR Voyaging, that's my other gig. It's a website focused on experiential VR and AR. I do news and reviews of different experiences that let you experience, or apps that let you experience travel, cultural heritage, new experiences around the world, vrvoyaging.com. Great to be here, and look forward to meeting everybody as time goes on.
Great. We're excited to have him as a new member of the team for sure. Well, it's for those of you that are not familiar with VRARA Seattle, we are a volunteer-led, membership-based organization that works to advance the XR industry by sharing knowledge and connecting you with local and global XR community members at large. Together, we work together to produce a mix of virtual programming like this and in-person programs for our members and communities. We've had an amazing first year after the COVID hubbub, and we produced over 13 events, some of those exclusively for members, but largely available to the public to really foster that community. Coming up next on December 18th, we have our holiday social. It will be at the Rainier Club, so we're really excited about that. We're actually going to be part of their BizBuzz artificial intelligence program, which is a current series they're running. Registration will come soon, so please keep an eye out for that. Space will be limited, so you want to make sure you sign up early for that. We certainly invite you to join us there and would love for you to get involved. There's lots of things to do, and we get our best ideas for programming from you. So if you have an idea that you want to bring to life or knowledge, information you want to share, we'd love to help you do that. And then finally, we are just one chapter of 60 chapters across the world for the global VRARA organization. There's over 65,000 members and contacts. And to me, the most valuable part of being part of VRARA is the industry-specific working groups, which really allows you to kind of focus in on whoever the customer or user is and use case is that you're working on. There's also a dedicated member Slack, which is a great way to connect with people as well. So please feel free to reach out to myself or Roberto if you'd like more information on us locally or globally. And with that, we'll transition to our presentation today. A brief word about Roberto. He's a pretty humble guy, so you kind of have to find this information, which I will share with you all. So he is a graduate of the University of Southern California, and he has worked with major global brands, including T-Mobile, Sony, Nestle, and Mattel to increase their sales and marketing reach. At Xtended Reality Advisory, he helps small to mid-sized companies, organizations, and individuals plan and implement end-to-end immersive technology solutions that deliver on business goals. So with that, Roberto, I'm going to stop sharing and let you take the screen and take it away.
Good morning, everyone. Again, thank you for joining me today for this chat about pixels to places, how spatial computing is reshaping our world. This is something that I want to start with a brief story. And I find myself telling some flavor of the story that I'm going to tell. And I quickly want to walk us through it. I tell this story to clients that might not be very well versed, like you, David, or even Ariane in the realm of extended reality. But I'm going to start with very basic images, starting from even before the film evolved to digital imagery via the use of pixels around 30 years ago. Motion pictures like the one I show here took viewers to many places, right? Through various forms of storytelling. We saw it in the movie theaters. They were starting to see it on the CRT screens, right? Since then, the inclusion of audiovisual technologies has really been on a quick trajectory. The pixels that are the digital dots that many of us are familiar with initially displayed photos and videos, and it went mainstream in the 1990s. So bear in mind, 30 years ago, right, we were trying to figure out how to make these digital pixels travel across. A little bit more about myself after the introduction. I'm the founder CEO of Extended Reality Advisory. We're a boutique spatial computing consulting advisory firm. And I have a partner, Susan Rosenthal, and I have a combined 50 years of experience in audiovisual production. We melded that with our experience in engineering, business management, and marketing. And over the years, we have used innovative ways to tell engaging stories. So everything that we have done is to entertain, sell products, or train people telling stories. Something that I noticed is that the VR has been in the market for a while. The I call it the VR hangover, is very real. Everyone seems to know what VR is and what it is for, right? The most typical answer is for video games, right? So that statement today couldn't be further from the truth. So I will get us back to the rapid development of audiovisual technologies when telecommunications merged with computers to create the internet. Again, over 30 years ago, right? A little bit over 30 years ago. Faster internet speeds and broadband allowed for the seamless video streaming over wires that eventually allowed to replace analog broadcasting and leading to what we know now as wireless broadband. We all know that information superhighway still hasn't reached its limits, and we still have ways to go with 5G, 6G, 7G, what comes next, right? Now, I joined the latter part of technology innovation as an engineer that evolved. I evolved as a marketer, and I'm here as a business owner and advisor telling this chat, right? But I'm always amazed at audiovisual communications and its ability to spread information and connect us globally. I was involved in the transition of commercial CRT screens when I was back at Sony to flat screens, and I was part of these newsroom setups, right? Almost 20 years ago. Information is really, what I learned is displayed via multicolored pixels. They're controlled by digital signals that travel at the speed of light via signal compression. That's table stakes. So what am I telling all of this, and why I get into this brief history of audiovisual communication? It's because everything that we are used to and people are used to seeing in these flat screens is only two-dimensional screens, right? X and Y planes, from printed paper to the high definition screens, everything has been absorbing that information in 2D. So 3D really emerged also about 30 years ago in the late 90s. And they start making these 3D environments, transporting the viewers to not just be viewers, but to be participants, right? Note the term that I'm starting to use, term places. All of a sudden, the pixels made gamers like myself feel like we were in a different environment. I used to play Top Gun and the Need for Speed, like long gone video games right there. But I had this exhilarating feeling of actually being the pilot in the jet or being the racing supercar pilot, right? I love that feeling of being set up. I would have loved to have that you have in your screen right there with the seat and the 4 screens in front of me. I just had a basic CRT monitor, right? But the feeling, it was magic. The pixels made me feel like in that place. The storytelling made me feel like the pilot, like the race car driver. And it engaged my sights, my senses, my hearing, my emotions, right? It became an emotional experience. Now it's 25 years later, I no longer play video games. I'm honestly a bit glad that I took those hours back, but the computing power, the advanced graphics, and the hardware development that has taken place in the last 30 years are allowing to create these 3D environments easier, with easier access, easier to maneuver around and to place. Now, the reason you see the clunky video headsets, as clunky and heavy as they might be today, is the continual progression to get heads up and hands-free solutions, right? We want to stop holding our devices and slouching our necks. We want to absorb that digital information in a more free way. So the headsets, these headsets that are on the headlines are just the precursors of the future holy grail of spatial computing and what spatial computing brings. Information in these 3D displays will show the space and the places as unlimited and as realistic as we desire, right? We can exist or exit the spaces with a flick of a finger. And a lot of us here, I think we all agree that the power and the freedom of it is very thrilling. So I want to spend the rest of the call highlighting a few examples and the 4 key challenges that I see on considering implementing XR outside of gaming. The first challenge is to VR or AR. So to answer the question, I have to go back to the main purpose of audiovisual communication, right? And that is to tell a story. So maybe the better question is, why 3D? Why is 3D important to tell the story? So going to my business mindset, I'm going to show what the numbers are telling, right? What we see is VR right now is a big player in terms of revenue. Right now, close to that 50%, 50-50 mobile via AR and AR. VR at $9 billion is expected to grow at 17% compounded growth, right? 17% compounded growth is really dwarfed by the pace that mobile and head-worn AR is going to have. Mobile at 35% growth and head-worn AR at 45% growth. So if you guys are developing things for AR, you should expect that 45% trajectory to keep driving your business, right? VR is going to be still double-digit, but stagnating compared to AR. So a second question that it always comes to mind is, hey, so do I have to develop it from scratch? Or can I start adopting platforms that are allowing me to develop 3D experiences in a less expensive way, right? And the answer is not always straight. It really has to do with spatial strategy. Is who is the person that is going to be absorbing the information, and where does 3D actually adds value, right? Where is 3D allowing you to engage more of the senses, to engage more of the ease of use? So one of the first examples that I have that will start absorbing this, 80% of the market, right, in AR, is healthcare. So big manufacturers are driving adoption and driving the adoption tipping points. So perhaps healthcare is the one outside of video games and even the military that is most widely using XR today. It is improving skills and training for surgeons with virtual reality, and it is saving time and millions of dollars spent on otherwise needed additional medical devices, operating rooms, and even cadavers, right? So XR solutions can greatly improve the performance tracking that cannot be tracked on a live setting or even recorded, right, for future consumption. Full spectrum of enterprise development is playing out. So you can see here the Microsoft and their HoloLens program. It's getting highly implemented in high-end medical schools, like Case Western University has this program where students are using headsets and seeing AR representations of the human body, right? So in case of Case Western, for example, they discontinued their cadaver program. Now they just use HoloLens 3D to learn anatomy and teach the future doctors. Up-and-comer developers like Vantari VR, this is an Australian developer, right? They're using Disney animators to achieve these hyper-realistic avatars and perform simulations that are affordable, simple to integrate wherever the doctors are. So again, the doctor doesn't have to show up in an operating room to practice how to do this, whatever this procedure is, right, into the lungs of the cadaver. So they can simply practice that. The application captures their time and how versatile their hand maneuvers are, even tracking the hands controllers, right? And at a very affordable price, very different than getting a cadaver, getting an operating room, and dealing with the backlog of practitioners. And even low to no code platforms, to the point of, hey, do I have to develop this from scratch, or can I start using platforms already developed, right? Like Education XR is a great example, is a member of the VRARA, where they allow to create these experiences in an even more affordable way, right? Instead of the hundreds of thousands of dollars that Vantari VR might be, it's in the tens of thousands of dollars, right? So the answer on whether to VR or to AR, it really depends on the market fit and the purpose of the experience. What is it going to be used? So all of that is uncovered by developing a spatial strategy. Now, the challenge number 2 is to, apologies for that, to go online metaverse or offline metaverse. So it may sound like the same question as VR or AR, right? But that would be a simplistic way to see it. I like to think about it as mixed reality. How about implementing AR in a way that allows VR to live within the story at the right time? So it will allow the participants to decide how isolated or how integrated he wants to be to the experience, to experience that story. So again, with the flick of a finger, the viewer and the participant makes the decision. And these things have to do with user design, potentially custom development if it doesn't exist already, right? A great example for this one is industrial settings. So DHL, since 2014, started experimenting with Vuzix AR. If you're familiar with the many types of headsets in the market, Vuzix is one of the less intrusive. They're trying to stay eyewear, with the eyewear format. And how about this one with HoloLens displaying in AR what each shelf unit has and how to track it, right? So a lot of this is part of that user interface and the user design that takes the user to being hands-off, hands-free and heads-up. A third one that I see as a challenge is whether to avatar or to go meta-human. So one thing is to create 3D environments or 3D objects, right? And the other one is to interact in 3D with those that we want to communicate with in real time. The uncanny valley effect is very real, right? Trying to figure out if it's lifeless, the avatar or the metahuman I'm speaking with, or is it really interacting with a real human? So there's, as you saw at the beginning of the chat, right? Not a lot of body language. It was just my avatar. You couldn't see my hands. I'm very expressive with my hands. That was gone out of the avatar equation. So it takes me to the part of real-time communication, right? We learn like these Zoom calls, right? I was really burned out early last year, and I decided to jump into the VR AR space to solve this issue of avatars and many video screens that I couldn't rely on in the in-person queues that I relied on for many decades, right? So a lot of it has to do with spatial analysis that can really help on 3D development. And this company called Cognitive 3D specializes on tracking spatial analysis data, right? And you can see this a little representation of where the person was looking at, and in their videos in their website, you can see how the spatial analysis starts coming together to present solutions. The one example that I really like where the technology is going is holographic representations of humans. These ones don't even use headsets, right? So we have a couple of hologram boxes that show the the complete video feed that looks like there's a real human in these boxes, like the ones from Proto or the one from ARHD that I'm showing here, ART, or technologies like solid light by Lightfield, right? They don't even require a headset. And it's really impressive. You can just have the 3D show up in your environment. The one that is getting closer to what really started me coming back to audiovisual production was this idea of codec avatars that Meta and Zuckerberg presented earlier this year, just a few months ago, right? This photorealistic representation of the scan face that traveled the distance. I have if folks haven't watched, I'm gonna play a few seconds here so we get a feeling of what these codec avatars that can be done today with a lot of photogramming and scanning your face, but this gives a good idea of what codec avatars is. Let's see if this loads. So this one is using the Quest Pro and of course headset, right, to fill in the same environment. Moving his head. I find this like really amazing and very different than MetaHumans, right? All right, I'm gonna stop it right there. Fourth challenge, and the last one, is digital twins or fantasy lands, right? That's how I call it. I think if storytelling is any predictor, I think the digital twins will have far better adoption within the AR spectrum, right? It is true that digital twins can live in VR and AR, but I believe that what is going to drive the human emotion outside of the digital world to encourage a viewer to engage with the physical world will be this representation of digital twins. Here's an example of what the Orlando Economic Partnership is doing with the region, right? Like allowing to see the city on top of a table. And I believe it will be those aspirations created with these digital twins that will permeate that human emotion in a way that going out in the physical world will feel less daunting and more engaging. However, digital twins pose a true security, compliance, and even support risk, right? How do you qualify a digital twin from being the original one that is not that hasn't been subject to identity theft or to fraud? So that is something to look out as well on the adoption of XR technologies that we also help with our clients to navigate, right? So this brings me to the end of what I wanted to share today, right? A lot of us, we're very familiar with the space. Those of us maybe watching the recording, I invite anyone to start small, start with mobile AR. Novaby Studio has amazing mobile AR experiences. You can do this from wherever you are, use your phone. You can try and do this experience, for example, to see virtual models, try 3D. Trying shoes, shirts, or pants in whatever size that you choose in your space. So it's almost like the model is right there next to you in your living room. And second, invite anyone that is in need of any type of consulting services, from spatial strategy to the market intelligence that I showed up briefly in terms of growth, user design or spatial analysis, and even security and support, right? To contact us. There's the information, and with a few minutes left, I really like to open it for questions and help take from pixels to new and empowering places. Anyone can do this these days with the technology that we have in hand.
Anybody got any questions? I think somebody typed something in the
Chat.
Oh, here, Ariane, it looks like you had a couple things you wanted to contribute.
Yeah, I just kind of adding on to what Roberto was saying about the many uses of VR and AR these days. I don't know if it's that widely known. My wife is, she works in health informatics at the VA. And so she forwards me articles all the time about how they are getting veterans into headsets. They're using that as ways of treating trauma and, whether that's sexual trauma, battlefield trauma, PTSD. It's being used in a lot of scenarios as a way of simulating life, basically, and allowing you to deal with something that maybe you wouldn't be able to do in actual life. When I put
Yeah,
on there.
there's a saying that I heard also from veterans from the VA. I don't know if it was your wife, maybe Arian, but they said to truly get the feeling of how immersive VR and AR is, you have to put more vets on headsets. So the headset right now, as bulky as it is, it's mind changing, right? So I agree with that.
And then the other thing I thought was worth mentioning, you were talking about kind of just quote unquote holograms these days and the hologram box. And I have sitting on my desk a product called the Looking Glass Portrait. They sell ones, the portrait is like 7 or 8 inches all the way up to like 20 or 30 inches on an 8K displays up to like 100 different views. No glasses. It is about as close to a hologram as you can imagine, except that it is constrained into a frame. So you can put a 3D model, whether it's a person or a scene or an animation or something, and as you walk past it, it's an amazing marketing tool, I'll tell you that. But it's also just a fun way to show off models of things that has actual perceived depth as you move your head around. And it's quite an unreal experience the first time you see it. Very much, I think, like that hologram box would be, just on a smaller scale, and quite
Thank you for
affordable.
bringing that up. Yeah.
Feel free to put the link, Arian, in the chat there for people to capture. Anybody else have any questions or thoughts, experience they want to share? Everybody being a bit quiet today. Okay. Well, Roberto, this was wonderful as always, and I love getting a view into what's in your head. So we don't always talk in that way. So I really liked the way you are thinking about the problem and the solutions. So, and I love the tie-in to the overall AV history. I think that is a really great way to make it more approachable for folks that are not familiar with VR and AR. Everybody knows TV, everybody knows their movies, and so I think putting it into that narrative and historical timeline is really very, very good, very insightful. So thank you. Well, just a reminder again, I don't think we have anybody local on the phone. I'm not sure, or on the call, but for those of you that may be watching later, I know we had a number of local folks. So keep an eye out for our invitation to our social coming up. Looking forward to seeing you there. We'll probably go out next week. And again, if you have ideas for programming, questions about VRARA membership, want to get involved, please feel free to reach out to anyone you see on the screen here.